At 8:01 a.m., a ribbon-cutting ceremony is happening at the side of my house. There's a folding table with lemonade, a novelty scissors set, and an HOA banner that reads, Grand Opening, Community Path. The path is my locked cedar gate. The HOA president in a floral blazer tries the handle. It doesn't budge. She smiles at the crowd with a forced brightness and says, "We'll just, remove this illegal barrier." Someone hands her a cordless saw. She waves like a pageant queen and squeezes the trigger. The saw whirs to life, its teeth biting into my padlock like it's made of butter. The crowd of maybe 20 neighbors watches with the kind of anticipation usually reserved for gender reveal parties or minor car accidents. The lock falls with a clang that echoes across the cul-de-sac, and Patrice Hulkcom, our HOA president, pushes open my gate with a dramatic flair of someone discovering a new continent. She turns to the crowd with tears in her eyes and declares, "The people's path is finally open." That's when I step out from behind my garage, holding a manila folder thick enough to use as a doorstop. I'm Caleb Rourke, a quiet homeowner who minds his grill and his audiobook subscription. My neighborhood is Maple Hollow outside Harper Lake, where everyone's yard looks like a dental waiting room and the HOA newsletter has a gossip column disguised as landscaping tips. Our antagonist is Patrice Hulkcom, HOA president and full-time boundary enthusiast. Patrice insists the narrow strip running along my side yard is a historic public path. I call it what the county calls it, Tract B, a leftover sliver from a dead developer's paperwork. The strip is maybe 4 feet wide and runs from my driveway to the creek behind my property. It's been gated since I bought the house 5 years ago, and nobody complained until Patrice took over the HOA 6 months back. She's the type who color codes her label maker cartridges and once tried to fine someone for having aggressively cheerful garden gnomes. Her husband Ted follows her around with a clipboard, nodding at everything she says like a bobblehead in an earthquake. Together, they've turned our sleepy neighborhood into their personal kingdom, where mailbox heights are measured to the millimeter and grass blade angles are a matter of public record. It starts with letters, remove gate obstructing public walkway, Section 9, Spirit of Access. Then come fines for gate insolence, unneighborly latch choice, and my favorite, hostile hinges. Patrice leads stroller parades past the gate, narrating a myth about pioneers using this very strip to fetch milk and justice. She prints a map with a dotted line that doesn't exist and tapes it to my mailbox like Holy Writ. Meanwhile, strangers start cutting across at dawn, treating my tomatoes like trail snacks. The first time I catch someone picking my Cherokee purples, they tell me with complete confidence that Patrice said it was a community garden. I relock the gate with a heavier chain. Patrice responds by hosting Path History Night at the clubhouse, complete with a PowerPoint she made using clip art from 1998. She shows grainy photos of random dirt roads and claims they're archaeological evidence of the path's significance. One slide just says, "Freedom," in Comic Sans over an eagle. When I send a cease and desist letter from my lawyer, she posted on the community Facebook page with crying emoji reactions and the caption, "Caleb hates children having safe walking routes." The comment section becomes a war zone between people who think I'm Satan and people who remember when Patrice tried to ban wind chimes for acoustic trespass. When I relock the gate with industrial-grade hardware, Patrice posts a notice, HOA order, gate TOB removed by Sunday for path reopening. She carbon copies, legal. The legal turns out to be her nephew, who took 1 semester of paralegal courses online. He sends me an email full of Latin phrases he clearly Googled, including habeas corpus, which has nothing to do with property law. Patrice starts a petition that she claims has 200 signatures, though I recognize the same handwriting in different colored pens. She holds vigils at my gate where she reads from what she calls the Charter of Pedestrian Rights, a document she wrote on her home computer and had laminated at the copy shop. Ted stands beside her with a lantern even though it's broad daylight. I go to actual legal, county records. A clerk yawns, types, and slides me a parcel report. Tract B is not public. It's an orphan parcel with 3 years of delinquent taxes, currently headed to auction with a minimum bid cheaper than my lawnmower. I spend a very boring week learning more about plats than any human should, then bid. The auction has exactly 2 participants. Me and a developer who loses interest when he realizes it's a strip of land too narrow to build on. 30 days later, deed recorded, taxes paid, survey pins bright as candy canes. The HOA unaware, schedules their reopening ceremony anyway. They send out glossy invitations that cost more than my winning bid. Patrice commissions a banner that reads, Pathway TO Community, and has a local news station on standby. She even hired a food truck, though she'll later claim she can't reimburse them because of budget constraints. The morning of the ceremony, she arrives in a new blazer with a matching hat that has a tiny veil, like she's attending a royal wedding. She brings the saw and a photographer who usually does school portraits. She slices through my lock and announces with a voice meant to carry, "The people's path is finally restored to its rightful glory." That's when she sees the new sign on the gate. Private property, Tract B, owner, Caleb Rourke. Date, parcel number, county seal. The saw goes quiet like a shamed kazoo. The photographer, still snapping pictures, captures the exact moment Patrice's face transitions from triumph to confusion to rage. It's the kind of photo that could win awards for expressions of human defeat. I step forward with my manila folder and pull out the deed. The crowd murmurs like they're watching a soap opera plot twist. Someone drops their commemorative cupcake. Patrice sputters something about this being impossible, that the land belongs to the people. I inform her in my calmest indoor voice that the land belongs to me as of 3 weeks ago, and she's currently trespassing on private property. Also, she's just destroyed my personal property with that saw, which I believe constitutes criminal mischief. Ted's clipboard falls from his hands. The news crew that just arrived starts adjusting their cameras with renewed interest. I don't raise my voice. I raise the paperwork. 2 deputies invited, because I'm not new, review the deed, the plat map, and the cheerful email where I notified the HOA of the ownership change last week with a subject line, per your interest in Tract B, note my acquisition. Please direct all future correspondence to my attorney. Patrice attempts Latin again with desperation in her voice. Ad adverse possession? The deputy shrugs and says flatly, Not how that works, ma'am. You'd need continuous use for 7 years minimum, and the owner just showed us a locked gate. She tries implied easement. I point to the survey. No recorded easements, just folklore and audacity. The deputy asks who cut the lock, his pen poised over his notepad. Neighbors suddenly discover cloud formations that require immediate study. Patrice's new blazer seems to deflate around her. A report is taken for trespass and criminal mischief. The saw gets tagged as evidence with a yellow label that matches Patrice's complexion. The lemonade sweats in the morning sun. Abandoned. The food truck owner asks me if he should leave. I tell him to stay and buy a round of tacos for everyone except Patrice and Ted. The news crew interviews me while Patrice stands in the background, trying to maintain dignity while a deputy explains that yes, she will need to appear in court. Someone starts a slow clap that dies immediately when Patrice shoots them a look that could melt steel. She tries one last time with a shaky voice, claiming the HOA has historical precedent. I pull out the final document, the original neighborhood plat from 1973, showing Tract B as a utility easement that was never used, never dedicated to public use, and definitely never a pioneer path to fetch anything except disappointment. The deputy asks if I want to press charges. I say yes, looking directly at Patrice, who seems to age 5 years in 5 seconds. The next week in civil court, my quiet stack of documents becomes a symphony. Tax receipts, deed, survey, photos of the ribbon cutting, and the HOA's own newsletter calling Tract B community adjacent, which the judge notes with raised eyebrows means not community property. The judge, eyebrows like awnings, issues a permanent injunction. HOA barred from accessing or representing Tract B as public, fines reversed with interest, and damages awarded for my mangled lock and trampled tomatoes totaling $4,800. He also orders the HOA to send a correction letter to all residents clarifying that the historic path is, and I quote from his ruling, a fiction unsupported by any recorded instrument, historical document, or basic common sense. Patrice blanches the color of printer paper. Her lawyer, the nephew with 1 semester of online paralegal courses, tries to object but uses the wrong legal term, and the judge asks if he's actually barred. He is not. The judge then turns his attention to the criminal mischief charge. Given the evidence, including the news footage of Patrice gleefully destroying my lock, he finds her guilty. She's fined another $2,000 and sentenced to 100 hours of community service. The judge, with what I swear is a hint of amusement, specifies that 40 hours must be spent teaching a course on property law basics at the community center, using materials approved by the county clerk's office. The courtroom erupts in barely suppressed snickers when he adds that the course must be titled, Reading a Plat Map for People Who Hate Reading. But the final blow comes that evening. The HOA board, facing potential personal liability and furious at the $4,800 judgment plus legal fees totaling another $6,000, calls an emergency meeting. The vote to remove Patrice as president is unanimous. Even Ted raises his hand, though he won't make eye contact with his wife. Patrice stands up, her face cycling through shades of red I didn't know existed in nature, and declares with a trembling voice that we're all going to regret this, that she was only trying to build community spirit. Someone points out that community spirit doesn't usually require power tools and criminal records. She storms out, slamming the door so hard that her framed President of the Month certificate falls off the wall and shatters.